All right, let's get right into it. The world is teetering on a knife's edge, really, because Iran's supreme leader has been assassinated. This has kicked off a massive succession crisis in Tehran, and honestly, it's sending shockwaves all around the globe. So, in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what happened, why this is such a huge deal, and the almost impossible choice that Iran's new leader is now facing.
Yeah, this quote, it just cuts right to the heart of the whole situation, doesn't it? A supreme leader has been killed, a son has been chosen, and the Revolutionary Guards are driving the process. In this moment of just absolute crisis, Iran's powerful security apparatus, they didn't waste any time on procedure. Nope, they moved fast and they were incredibly decisive.
Okay, so first up, let's zoom in on Tehran. We need to look at the immediate aftermath and how this transfer of power actually went down.
And I mean, it all happened unbelievably fast. Just think about this timeline. Saturday, Ayatollah Khamenei is killed in these airstrikes. By Tuesday, just 3 days later, his son Mujtaba is secretly chosen to be the next supreme leader. This was not some normal, by-the-book constitutional process. Not at all. This was a wartime decision, and it was driven by the powerful Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. You know them as the IRGC.
So you might be asking, who is this guy, Mujtaba Khamenei? Well, he's a lot more than just the son of the former leader. For something like 2 decades, he's been the one effectively running the Beit. That's the Supreme Leader's office. And let me tell you, it's the real center of power in Iran. It controls all the key security and financial levers. He is the ultimate insider's insider.
So why him? Why did the IRGC push so hard for Mojtaba? Well, it really comes down to 2 key motives. The first one is all about control. They absolutely had to prevent a power vacuum and keep all the security forces on the same page. The second reason? Legitimacy. But, and this is a key point, not legitimacy for the entire country. We're talking about legitimacy for the regime's core loyal base. For them, having the son take over represents continuity. It makes them feel like the system hasn't completely broken.
Okay, so while the regime was busy consolidating its power, the reaction on the streets among everyday Iranians? Wow. It could not have been more different, completely divided.
I mean, listen to this quote. It's from a PhD student. When I heard the news, I called my family. I could hear sounds of happiness coming from the streets. That just says it all, right? For so many Iranians who have suffered under this regime, the news sparked actual celebrations. It was this tiny glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, things could change.
But then you have this just a total contrast. It really shows the huge disconnect. While you have people literally celebrating in the streets, the state machine kicks into gear and announces a mandatory 40-day period of official mourning. They start broadcasting these images of supporters out in Tehran grieving publicly. 2 completely different realities.
And then there's this third group. As this Northeastern professor puts it, this is a war, right? There is no such thing as a war in which only bad people are taken out. These are real lives, real people. For so many, it's not about celebration or official mourning. It's just a deep, gut-wrenching sense of dread. This isn't some political game to them. It's a war, and their friends, their families, ordinary people, they're all caught in the crossfire. The biggest feeling out there is just pure anxiety about what's coming next.
Okay, now we've got to zoom out. Let's look at the global fallout, because this crisis, it did not stay contained within Iran's borders. Not even close. Tehran's first response was to immediately target the world's most critical energy choke point.
Just look at this number, 20 million barrels of oil. And that's not per week, that's every single day. To put that in perspective, that's 1/5 of the entire planet's daily consumption. And just like that, almost overnight, Iran basically turned off the tap.
So what did that do to the markets? Well, the reaction was immediate, and it was severe. Just look at this chart. You can see Brent crude on Friday, it's chilling at around $73. Then, boom, Monday morning, markets open and it jumps to nearly $88. That's a huge surge. And analysts are now warning that if this goes on, we could see prices hit $130 or more. We're talking levels we haven't seen since the 2008 financial crisis.
So who gets hit the hardest by this? This table lays it out, and it's pretty stark. Major economies in Asia are incredibly dependent on the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, look at Japan. A staggering 95% of its crude oil comes through there. South Korea, China, India, all around 50 to 70%. This is a massive vulnerability.
And it's not just about oil. This sent a ripple effect through the entire global shipping system. We're talking absolute chaos. The biggest shipping giants, Maersk, MSC, you name it, they suspended all transits. Tanker traffic just collapsed, down by 70%. And the cost of insurance, the war risk premiums, they spiked by 50%. On top of all that, Europe's access to natural gas from Qatar is now seriously at risk. So as you can imagine, this completely scrambled the global chessboard. All the pieces are suddenly in motion. So the big question is, how are the world's major powers trying to play this game and navigate this crisis?
Well, the reactions are all over the place. In one corner, you've got the United States, with President Trump basically encouraging Iranians to take over your government. Then you have the European Union, which is desperately trying to pump the brakes and get everyone to the diplomatic table. China's in a really tough spot. They're condemning the strikes, but they are a massive buyer of Iranian oil, so they're walking a very fine tightrope. And then there's Russia. Publicly, they're calling the assassination a cynical violation of international law. Privately, they're definitely benefiting from those higher oil prices.
And all of this international maneuvering, it brings us right back to where we started. Full circle, back to the new Supreme Leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, and the absolutely monumental choice that now rests squarely on his shoulders.
Really, his entire dilemma, all the pressure, it boils down to one simple yet impossible question. Fight or fold? Does he escalate everything to avenge his father, to project strength to the world? Or does he de-escalate to try and ensure the very survival of his regime?
Now, to really get why the pressure to fight is so intense, you have to understand this concept, qisas. It's an Islamic term, and it basically means retribution, an eye for an eye, a life for a life. His father had already called for qisas to avenge the killing of General Qasem Soleimani. Now, Mojtaba doesn't just have to avenge Soleimani. He carries the burden of avenging his own father. The pressure to hit back, and hit back hard, is just immense.
Okay, but what about the other option? What does folding or de-escalating even look like? Well, the price for that is incredibly high. It would basically mean giving up on everything the US and its allies have been demanding for years, permanently ending all nuclear enrichment, accepting long-term verifiable limits on their missile programs, abandoning their entire regional proxy network, and ending their decades-long policy of confrontation with Israel.
Just think about that for a second. To choose de-escalation, to choose what might be survival, he would have to dismantle his father's entire life's work. The whole strategic legacy his dad spent 37 years building, gone in a single afternoon. It's more than just a policy reversal. It's a deeply personal repudiation of his own father.
So that's what he inherits, a nation completely divided, a region that's basically on fire, and a global economy thrown into turmoil. The new Supreme Leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, is standing in the ruins of his father's world, and he's facing this impossible choice. Does he try to avenge that world, or does he just try to survive its collapse? The big question that the entire world is waiting to have answered is, which path will he choose?